people frequently claim that immigrants and poor black families are living off the system. They're on welfare, they're mooching. But here is the truth. The majority of people on public assistance in the United States of America are white, and most of them have jobs.
Hi guys, welcome to yet another video. It's Ndagiri here. Thanks for clicking on today's video. We are going to be talking about how there's this unapologetic palmed woman that came out to expose her people for most of the things they've really been hiding, especially like right now where we've seen, especially with a big beautiful bill where they cut on the food stamps, on the healthcare, on Medicaid. And I've seen a lot of palm people coming out and crying literally like they cannot survive anymore.
My whole house is on Medicaid. My husband, me, our baby daughter. Okay, we're all on Medicaid. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to have the birth control in my arm that I have. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to have the antidepressants that I have at no cost to me. Without Medicaid, I wouldn't be able to go to therapy to continue to be the mom I am to the 3 kids and 2 separate houses that I have to do. Without Medicaid, my daughter wouldn't be able to go and get her vaccines and go and get all of the things that she needs as an 18-month-old baby. Without Medicaid, my husband wouldn't be able to go and get the medications that he needs and the treatment that he needs for his disability. Without Medicaid, not a single person in my house would have health care. We are low income. Our only income is my husband's SSI. We're on food stamps. We use food pantries. Okay? Without Medicaid, we would never be healthy. And for us, it's not even like body. It's all mental. For my husband, for me, and then we have a baby who needs Medicaid for vaccines, who needs Medicaid for... I already have 2 children who are diagnosed with autism. So what if she ends up getting diagnosed with autism? We need Medicaid. We need Medicaid.
And some of the people that are actually saying this, they seem to be normal. But it's like Medicaid is in their whole family, which the fact is it should be for people that are disabled or elderly people. But it's like they have been misusing it and now they are crying because it's been taken away and they don't want to go to work. So this lady's like, wait a minute, you've been given a lot of these things for free. So it's time for you guys to stop complaining and also think about, giving maybe those benefits to the people that are actually needing of it and not you guys. Listen to what she had to say about how it started, how it's going, what she feels about it, and what other palm people are thinking or feeling about this whole situation. Come back and let me know your thoughts on it.
Welfare was created for white people. I knew that it was created during the New Deal, so I did some more research because I didn't really know the whole story, and I thank you guys for responding and helping me learn stuff. So during the Great Depression is when we saw the beginning of things like Social Security, unemployment insurance. But here's the kicker. When Franklin Roosevelt built those programs, he had to make deals with Southern Democrats in Congress, the same folks who were big fans of Jim Crow, to get the support of these racist white Southern politicians. The programs were designed to exclude farm workers, domestic workers, jobs held overwhelmingly by Black, Latino, and Indigenous people. So right from the start, Black and brown families were pushed out of benefits so that white people could get them. Then we move forward to the 1960s, and there's this war on poverty. It finally opened up welfare programs more broadly, and that's when food stamps became permanent. Well, permanent, we don't know what Trump's going to do to them, but they lasted a long time. And guess what? The minute more Black and brown families started accessing this help, the politics shifted. Welfare got a new image and a new target. By the 1980s and 90s, with Ronald Reagan and his gang, they pushed the welfare queen myth. That's a racist dog whistle meant to turn public opinion against safety nets by blaming Black women for poverty that white policies created. That's the truth, you guys. So yes, welfare was built for white people. And when others finally got in the door, they tried to burn the house down. But it's not poor people who are eating up the most dollars in public assistance. Nope, it's the middle class. It's people who can take mortgage deductions. And of course, corporations cashing in on subsidies. But nobody calls that a handout. I've never owned anyone. My neighbors, as far as I know, have never been owned by anyone. But the people who say we don't owe any reparations for the Civil War are ignoring something really huge. Or maybe they just don't know. Some people already got reparations. White people. White enslavers were paid for losing their human property. The actual people who were raped, tortured, whipped, and sold, and worse, were promised land to get a fresh start after the war, but they got nothing. When slavery was abolished, Congress paid nearly $1 million, which is 30 million in today's bucks, to white enslavers as compensation for losing their property in a war they lost. If a freed person didn't hit the road fast enough, they risked being re-enslaved under new laws that were just workarounds for all these white people losing their slaves. After the Civil War ended, Union General Sherman set aside 400,000 acres of confiscated Confederate land for black families to start new lives on, up to 40 acres each. The Army loaned out mules to help them work the land. That's where the phrase 40 acres and a mule comes from. Black people were already working some of this land when Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson became president. Well, Johnson reversed the order. He gave the land back to the same Confederates who had just tried to destroy the country. The freed people were evicted. So they made all these things into crimes that were non-crimes. They were things like, if a black person didn't have a job, that was a crime. If a black person couldn't prove that they had a job, that was a crime. You could get arrested for that and a lot of other ridiculous things. But once you were in jail, you could be leased out as labor for private profit. This system of convict leasing allowed white landowners and businesses to replace slavery with something just as violent, just as profitable as slavery. No wonder there are still Confederate flags all across the South. Even after slavery was abolished, Black Americans were not safe. Public lynchings became a regular threat. They were a form of terror used to keep free people in their place. They were planned events, announced in advance so everybody could attend. They were held in broad daylight. White families brought their children to watch black people being hanged, tortured, brutally murdered. It was a festival. People sold food. There were postcards made. People could buy postcards of the mutilated bodies hanging from trees and mail them in the mail or keep them as souvenirs. This country took care of Civil War criminals and punished the ones the war was supposed to free. And there was a lot more abuse I just can't fit into this video. Next time I'm going to talk about the stuff that happened in relation to the Great Depression and World War II. And then after that, I'll have one on civil rights, the era when I was growing up, how it all ties in to the racism that is part and parcel of our grand land today. White people, you especially need to get curious. Join me in this research, and you'll find that people are willing and able to come in with their education and their experience to help you learn. You just have to be open to it. We need to be willing to be uncomfortable.
As we've seen the video, that is what is going on. And like I say all the time, I like coming across these kind of videos because when they call themselves out, it makes sense, as I'll always say that. But it's really interesting that a group of people that has always been calling other people lazy, as I say all the time, are receiving handouts all the time, or people that are just taken from the government, are the ones that have really been benefiting, and the systems were created for them to benefit in these things. And that's why I've come across a lot of videos of people asking, like, Palm people, how on earth are you as a Palm person being poor, you know, denying yourself of opportunities when you are put in a system that benefits you, which I find also ironic. Like how now with the systems, with the government, with the policies that they are putting in place, it's being exposed. They are being exposed that they've been the ones using these benefits and receiving handouts from the governments, but they've been putting this picture onto other groups of people. So now that these other groups of people are being, kicked out by their person, they can't sustain their homes, they can't sustain their businesses, they can't sustain themselves also because they've been just receiving handouts. And it's actually laughable. They have been so codependent on the government than these other groups of people. Like, let's say when it comes to Black people, they've always fought for whatever that they have in their businesses, in schools, in education, in a lot of things. So seeing a palmed woman come out and call out her own, like, hey, you guys actually received reparations, you guys received money when human beings were taken away from your control, when human beings were taken away from your hands, you guys received money, received reparations, you are given, benefits. And you are the same people coming out and crying now because it's the same thing that is happening, and it's coming from a person that you thought that was probably going to give you more access to these other groups of people, and then now it's turning sideways. You are coming on here crying. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I really love when palm people come out and call out their own, because they are speaking from a place of shame, place of accountability, and a place of learning as well as deconstruction.
White people would rather lose democracy than give Black and brown people access to it. And the way that America is responding to the ICE protests and the Palestinian protests just proves this. Who the state tries to protect and who it tells you is a threat shows you who it was built for. You notice the military was never called in for January 6th, but somehow they're called in for the ICE protests. 2. White people always confuse control with safety. And this is because whiteness believes in a power hierarchy. And this power hierarchy represents a spectrum of color, with white males at the top and everyone else in descending order. Any perceived threat to the control of white males is met with an incredibly exaggerated and emotional response, while real threats to the physical safety of Black and brown bodies are considered irrelevant and minimized. And any attempt by the press or others to highlight this threat is squashed. Which leads us to number 3 and what this country was built on, which is white grievance politics is happy to burn down the whole house. From blocking voting rights bills to militarized crackdowns, a huge percentage of white Americans are willing to shrink democracy itself rather than share it and care for all the citizens. Democracy isn't a privilege reserved for a few. It's a promise that must be defended for everyone. When we fight for immigrant justice, racial equality, the right to the LGBTQIA community, and environmental justice, we don't just expand democracy, we safeguard it. Because if we don't fight for democracy and justice for all, we risk losing it entirely.
With the palmed man that you were saying that my people would rather vote against their own interests because them seeing other people benefit in something that was probably made for them, they would rather lose it. And we are clearly seeing it. They would rather vote against, health, against education, against, even their own businesses. Because if, let's say tariffs are being increased and you guys have to pay more to have your businesses function, it shows that you would rather lose everything, put someone that is going to do the most to hurt other people, even if it's going to hurt you as well, just not for you to share things with these other groups of people, the same people that have literally been making your lives easier. We can clearly see the ones that have been calling others lazy are the ones that cannot survive on their own. Because ever since, let's say, with that mass deportations, for example, farms are drying up, their crops are dying, companies are crying because people are no longer buying in their companies, especially those that supported, this man. They have no support anymore. When it comes to health, they are losing health benefits, and it's them coming on here crying like, hey, this is not okay. Why are you hurting us? And I've shared videos where palmed magas were coming out and apologizing to people like, hey, we are so sorry for everything. We are sorry for voting this man. This is not what we, signed up for. But they only came from a place of, it's hurting me. I'm hurting. I am losing something. Not in a place of maybe these people are right. Maybe this was not a right decision for me to do. Maybe this is not a way I should have been, into or been a part of. But no, it only came out. They only came out to apologize, as I shared in the previous videos, because of consequences hurting them, because of policies hurting them, because of things getting away from them, not because they were feeling sorry for other groups of people. So when PAM people are like, we need to step up right now and say the truth as it is. And this is why the system is always fighting to teach Black history. Like the things this lady was saying, if everybody knew about it, I think all this hatred from palmed people towards, our people today would have been less, because they would have learned from their history. But because the history or the education is also suppressed and, always changed and played with, because they do not want to take in accountability for their ancestors' actions, this is where we are now. Them thinking it's other groups of people that are benefiting from systems that were literally created to just benefit them as PAM people. And even when, these other groups of people joined those systems, they still had to run and walk around it just to make it harder for these same people they are calling lazy to have access to them. But then even when these other groups of people have access to those funds or those benefits, as I would call them, they would rather vote to lose them than to see themselves share those benefits with those people they stole from or they created these systems to hurt. Make it make sense. These are the same people coming on here crying because they are lazy and don't want to work and depend on other people. They are the same people coming out and crying because they expect some kind of sympathy from people. Like, are they even for real? Is that even real? Guys, that is it for me in this video. Let me know what you think about everything that is going on. And I really support what them people are coming out to say about themselves, teaching history to themselves and putting in the time to learn and appreciate that, hey, we should appreciate these groups of people because of the things they did, but also taking accountability for the things we've really, really committed to them. But also we need to be advocating so that these people also get what they deserve, especially when it comes to Black people wanting reparations. They deserve it. They do deserve them. They were promised land, but clearly it was a lie. It was never given. It was taken still away from them. When Black people come out and they're like, hey, you guys did the most to us and we need to be compensated, as PAM people, we should be in support of that, because our ancestors that literally were hurting these other groups of people were compensated for losing human beings as their possessions. That should be a lesson, but only for those that really want to learn, or for the people that have to first reach a place of consequences and suffering for them to put in the time to actually learn about the true history of their true ancestors as PAM people. Guys, that is it for me in the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell I'm always posting. I will see you in another video. Bye.